Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Siyasat Daily. Today we are here with one of Hyderabad's well-known faces. She is a leading social activist and has been working as an arbitrator, trying to create peace between communities. We are here to talk about the hijab ban that has been placed on students in Karnataka. Ma'am, welcome to the Siyasat Daily.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you here today.
Pleasure being here.
Ma'am, my first question to you would be, what was your first reaction when you heard about the judgment, Karnataka High Court's judgment?
If I can be very honest, I was extremely gutted. I was very saddened. I became very emotional that whole day. Even now talking about it, I realize I am still emotional. I felt very let down by my nation, by my judiciary. Something that I have respect for. As an Indian citizen, I was born in this country. I am a citizen of this country. I have always abided by the laws. I have always felt that my rights are protected by the law. If there is something that is unjust, that I can go to the courts, that there is recourse there, and that my rights will be upheld. So when the judgment came through, it was, like I said, I don't know if I was shocked. I was extremely saddened, for sure. It was just a very disheartening feeling, and I shouldn't feel disheartened. I know that the Almighty is there and that He is the better planner, or the best planner, I should say, and I cannot lose hope. I felt helpless temporarily. I felt that, okay, what now, what next? And I knew that there were a lot of people speaking up about it, some knowledgeable, some informed, some ignorant, some that were doing more disservice, I felt, to the Muslim community than helping to clarify things, helping to support people that were in distress. Seeing the video initially of Muskan, the young girl, the young, brave, courageous girl, that was basically, it's very simple. In my mind, she was bullied. Whether she was a Muslim, whether she was wearing hijab, whatever the reason was, she was bullied. And the people who were bullying her never paid a price for that. So as a young woman, she was bullied. I'm not talking about the why and the where and the when, but she was the victim, and the perpetrators of that bullying, of that verbal abuse, have not paid any price for that. So I think that that was one of the fundamental things that should have been addressed, and it wasn't. It became about religion, it became about interpretation of religion, and what translation and what transliteration and everything, and I don't think that that was the real issue. It really isn't.
I do agree with that. Ma'am, you come from a very prominent family, a well-known name for Hyderabad and around the country as well. Has there been any pressure ever on you to dress a certain way or look a certain way, or as a matter of fact, remove your hijab and go against the rules of your religion that you're expected to follow? Has there been any pressure on you?
I honestly can say not at all. I was never forced to wear the hijab. I started wearing the hijab, in my opinion, very late in life, in the sense I had already, I think I had already given birth to my elder daughter, and it was only at some point during that, between her being born and my younger daughter being born, that I started to wear the hijab, if I'm not mistaken. Initially, it was probably a surprise to many people. I remember one or two people saying, oh, maybe she's having a bad hair day. Whatever it is. And so I'm sure people were surprised. I don't know if it came from the confidence that I was raised with, number one, to not really be affected by what people thought. And then I was supported completely, 100%, eventually by my husband. Initially, he was also a little, resistant. He was like, okay, are you going to wear this all the time? But very quickly he came around when he understood why I wanted to do it. And I would want to answer that question. Why did I start to do it? And I used to remember in college, people would come up to me and say, where do you get your hair cut? Because they liked my hairstyle. So I had gone from that probably to a phase where I'm now covering my hair and no one can see my hair except my close family members. So why did I start? Well, it was a thought, I guess, when the sort of process of Islamic discovery started when I was very young. My parents were always very religious minded. My father taught us in the Sunday Islamic school when I was growing up in the US. I had wonderful teachers there, some who used to wear the hijab, some who didn't, even back then. My mother also didn't wear it, although she came from a very conservative family that used to wear the burqa and the niqab. So prior to her getting married, she used to do that. And then after she got married, my dad's side of the family was a little less conservative. So they didn't wear a burqa, niqab or hijab. There was an strong influence when my father moved to Saudi. We learned a lot about religion. We feel that we were able to correct a lot of the misconceptions or the innovations that had crept in. And one of the things I think that seed was planted at that time when we started to study the Quran more, study rulings more, study Islam in general more. And that is when the decision was taken. So it was a lot of self-reflection, and it was about my relationship to my Creator. If I felt that He has asked me to do something through the Quran or through His messenger, then I wanted to abide by that. That doesn't mean I'm holier than thou. I'm not saying that. If you don't cover, that is between you and your Lord. I'm choosing to cover. Like I said, it was not forced upon me because I felt that it is an integral part of, number one, my Muslim identity as a woman. And it was about the level of modesty that I felt my religion prescribed for me as a woman. So that is why I adhere to it. And alhamdulillah, I continue to adhere to it. And I feel that the level of modesty prescribed in Islam, it's like a huge spectrum. So there's one end on which maybe what I'm doing is seen as the minimum. And then there is the other end. I'm talking about what is prescribed, not about practices. Practices are totally different, but I'm saying what is prescribed. And those people that think that the burqa, whatever color, shape, size, niqab, gloves, socks, they go to that level. That is one end of the spectrum, Some of them don't want to be seen out in public. They feel that they want to stay indoors, speak behind from a parda or a curtain or whatever. So that is their understanding and what they want to do in relation to their relationship with their Creator and their understanding of what Islam is asking of them. I'm doing what I think I'm able to do and also what I have understood to be necessity. So that is how the whole journey started. And again, to come back to your question, did I ever face any difficulty? So like I said, since I started later on in life, when I was in school and college, I wasn't wearing the hijab. When I did my master's, I didn't go to university. I did a distance education course, but I did a lot of courses which trained me to become a counselor, a counseling psychologist. And in those courses, I was wearing the hijab. And I remember there was once the question came up that because as a counselor, you're supposed to remain very neutral, right? You're not supposed to come across as biased towards any gender or any religion or any culture or any race and so on and so forth. So the question was asked, they said, is it going to be an issue when clients come in and they see you in a hijab? Is it going to make them, put a barrier between you and your client? And I said, well, time will tell. And as I became a counselor and I started to counsel, the one thing I realized is that when someone comes in for counseling, their focus is them, not you. So they're there because they are really distressed. They have issues, they have problems, and they're coming to you. They're seeking out your help because they are so in themselves, in their own minds. They really don't care what you're wearing or what you're not wearing. So, and to the extent that I remember one of my Muslim clients even asking me, he was talking about something to do with religion and his understanding of it. And he said, do you know what I'm talking about? Are you a Muslim by any chance? So he wasn't even sure. So the fact that I was wearing a hijab and looked like a visible, very visibly a Muslim woman, it didn't even register. And this was after many sessions. It was not like the first or the second session. I remember once one of my colleagues, she also happened to be wearing a hijab, was asked, why are you wearing this? And when she tried to give that explanation that, it's the level of modesty prescribed by Islam, I was like, what? And then she realized he wasn't asking that. He was just asking, is it a uniform or is it something to do with the institution that we were working at? So yeah, the conversation moved on. So I haven't felt that. Just like I don't think that, for instance, my own teacher, she is a Brahman and she wears a bindi often. I don't think that affects people who come to her. She has Muslim clients, she has Christian clients, she has clients from all over. I don't think it really affects her. So like I said, it hasn't affected me in the workplace. Do doors shut on me, or is there some unsaid bias? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to answer that. You'd have to ask people who, have maybe felt that or want to admit to it, I guess, would be the way to put it.
So you haven't felt any sort of bias towards?
No.
Not even felt the presence, like people giving you looks or anything like
International travel. As a matter of fact, my partner and I, we had formed an organization called MAP, Mediators and Peace Builders. So we had gone to the US to train. At that time, we were training in parenting skills with a wonderful organization in America. And so we traveled. This was post 9/11. This is in May, just a few months after that. And we didn't have any problem. We had absolutely no problems. The facilitators, the other participants, they were all so warm. They were all so, engaging and very welcoming. So we've never had a problem, even in travel. Do I get pulled aside? I have, once or twice. Sadly, in Australia, the 2 times that I remember being pulled aside for the extra check, and and then trying to make it appear that it was being done very in a non-biased way. They also pulled aside my daughter, who was not wearing a hijab, and the other time, just unnecessary questions were asked. There was one incident in the US, only one in the many, many years that I've lived there or been back there since, in which there was something that was done that wasn't too good, but I couldn't say with certainty that it was done because I was a hijab-wearing Muslim. But it seemed to be some prejudice was there. So I'm sure you scratch the surface, it's there. We are coming to realize that, whether it's in North America and we are looking at the whole Black Lives Matter thing, that people have a lot of prejudice still. They've hidden it well, they've camouflaged it, but we have to root it out. We have to really dig in and remove it. So I feel that the work that I've done, and I've had that the blessing of being able to engage with organizations that allow me to sort of hopefully remove some of those myths and misconceptions they have about Muslim Indian women, just by being a part of the organization, by being a part of the workshops. I've had people come up to me from the Northeast especially and said, oh, we never knew Muslim women were so educated, or that they could speak so well, or they could articulate, not to blow my own trumpet, but just say that for them it was a surprise. I guess they had not come across Muslim women, in that way.
So now this judgment which has been passed, it has been passed for schools and colleges in Karnataka, right? Do you think this is going to be dragged out to outside educational institutions as well? Do you think Muslim women in general are going to face the wrath of this decision that has been passed by the High Court at some point of time?
I wish I could just say, oh, of course not. And maybe had you asked me that a few years ago, I would have said, no, that can never happen. But unfortunately, it has happened. So there are things that are happening in my country that I'm not very happy with, I'm not very proud of. like I said, my constitution grants me certain rights, certain fundamental rights. And if they're being taken away from me through ignorance, through bias, through some sort of agenda, political or otherwise, it's very unfortunate. So I do think that women and girls need to be there and support each other in whatever way they can. I also feel that we jumped the gun. Going to court, I mean, I don't want to lay blame, but I'm saying that we missed some of the steps before going to court. So for instance, I remember that when that whole, where there have been a lot of issues having to deal with women who have been the victims of overt or covert violence. Sometimes when the family members of the abusers were spoken to, or the abusers themselves, a lot of times there was a realization that, oh, you know, that's not what they meant, or they didn't realize that they would do it. Parents of an abuser once said that he's such a quiet boy at home, we can't imagine he would do something like that. This was when that auction of the Muslim women was taking place. His parents were spoken to and they were in shock. So that dialogue is very important. Questions need to be asked and answered. So why did you feel threatened by me wearing a hijab? Did I say something or did I do something that made you feel uncomfortable? And then ask the question why. Because many a times, unless we ask the question, the assumptions do us in. So had a dialogue taken place with these bullies, and I'm going to call them as they are, if we had dialogued with those bullies, if the college, which that girl, she did say that, she said the college, the principal, the teachers were all very supportive of her. That same principal, those same teachers, the same other children maybe, had they called those boys in, the bullies, and said, kya ho raha? You know, just simply, कि क्या हो रहा है ये? क्यों आपको ये चीज़ करने, you know, what is it that sort of drove you to, एक अकेली बच्ची कॉलेज आ रही है या स्कूल आ रही है पढ़ने के लिए, स्कूटी चला के आ रही है, शी इज़ वेयरिंग अ हिजाब और अ बुरखा और जीन्स और whatever she is wearing, how does that affect you? How does it affect your position? How does it affect your safety? How does it affect, I don't know. I want to know. I really want to ask them that question. कि क्या चीज़ थी वो बच्ची के बारे में that bothered you so much that you thought you have to harass her and bully her in that way? So in the same way, I feel that these steps have to be taken. You have to first dialogue. So if a school is saying, no, the hijab is, you know, not allowed, or the niqab is not allowed, or the burqa is not allowed, whatever. You can't wear long socks, you have to wear a short dress, you know. You have to sort of engage with them and question them and ask them, अच्छा, तो नमाज पढ़ने से कुछ problem हो रहा आपको? हाँ, वो disrupt हो रहा, class disrupt. अच्छा, तो classroom के बाहर पढ़ेंगे. All right, what else? So we have to engage. We have to engage in dialogue. We have to get to the actual foundation for what for the reason for something being banned or being questioned or there's an objection to it, whatever it is. So I think it's very important that we start to dialogue. And it's important, and I often say this, is that when it has to do with Muslim women and the rights of Muslim women, I too agree with many people who say that women should be asked. They should be the ones speaking, right? About what does Islam, because Islam talks to me. The Quran talks to me. When I open the Quran, it's talking to me. It says, Ya ayyuhal ladina, it says, Ya ayyuhan nas. So it's talking to me because I'm part of humankind. I'm part of the believers, you know, whatever it is. So it's talking to me. So engage with me, talk to me, and see if you can understand where I'm coming from as a Muslim woman. But at the same time, there are times when I feel it is very important for the Muslim men to also speak. And that's issues that if it's heard from a woman's mouth, it isn't given that same importance or it isn't given that same weightage when it comes from a Muslim male voice. So for instance, if in the masajid, the khatib or the imam is talking about how domestic violence is not allowed in Islam, or how whatever it is that is a woman-centric issue, if he's talking about that instead of talking about women to men, it would make so much of a difference, right? If the imam is saying that domestic violence is forbidden in Islam, it'll make a difference. If the imam is saying addiction is taking place, substance abuse is taking place in our community, what do we do to prevent it? It will make an impact. So there are certain things that men need to definitely stand up for and voice. But yes, you can also talk to educated, aware women, Muslim women, and also always keep in mind the cultural context. See, I am an Indian Muslim. I find it very offensive if you're asking me to choose one or the other. Just like I would find it very offensive if you said, tell me, are you a Muslim first or a woman first? Or are you an Indian first or a woman first? What is the comparison? One is my religion, one is my nationality. Many times people ask me, where are you from? And I'll say Hyderabad. Does that mean I'm an anti-national or that I'm not as nation proud as the next person? No, it just means that I identify because that's the language I speak, that's the clothes I wear, that's the food I eat with a lot of pride. You know, I love my Hyderabadi biryani, and that is the only form of biryani that's really biryani. So, you know, it's okay. It's okay to embrace culture. It's okay to embrace my Indianness because that is who I am. I was born here. I'm a born national. It's not something that I acquired through marriage or through some, fault or default. It is because I was born here and I am an Indian citizen. And I'm also a Muslim. And don't ask me to choose. I find it offensive that you think you have the right to ask me to choose.
Yeah, I agree with that. Talking about the country, have you ever felt some sort of so girls around the country have felt unsafe because people start questioning, why are you wearing the hijab, it's making us uncomfortable, various other things. And there are incidents of harassment as well, or bullying. Right, so now talking about Hyderabad, I come from United Arab Emirates. I've lived my life there. I've lived 17 years, 18 years. I've started practicing hijab at the age of 9. Since then, I've been wearing my hijab. I've never felt a difference over there or over here. I've been very comfortable here wearing my hijab. Nobody has questioned it, nothing at all. Do you think Hyderabad is a safe space for women or Muslim girls as compared to other states? What is your opinion on this?
I'm a little wary answering this question because I feel like I live in a bubble. I belong to, like you said right in the beginning, I belong to an illustrious family. My mother's side is a very old Hyderabadi business family. My grandfather was an industrialist. He founded, he was a Hakim, so he founded what's called Zindat al-Ismat and that industry. My father's side, they come from a more academic background. My grandfather on my father's side was the accountant general. So I belong to a certain social strata by God's grace. And my experiences are not the experiences of the person who's coming from a different socioeconomic strata. But based on my being, who I am, the circle I am a part of, the colleges and schools that I've been a part of, the social circle that I'm a part of, I haven't felt any restriction, honestly. I've never felt uncomfortable. I've never felt singled out. I don't know, maybe people think I'm a little full of myself, that I'm not bothered by what they think and say. And I hope I don't come across as that. It's not arrogance, or it's not. I'm definitely proud of my identity as a Muslim woman, and I wear my identity on my sleeve or on my head. Call it what you want, yeah? So for me personally, I don't feel that I'm going to have a problem. But I can't say that for others. A majority of the people still feel safe. The safety they do not feel, or the dangers that exist for everyone, all the women, and a lot of young boys as well. So someone who is doing child safety, especially in schools, and talking about CSA, which is child sexual abuse. Unfortunately, the statistics have shown that boys are just as likely to be abused as girls are. So creating that awareness is important, that it's not the gender that protects you, and it isn't the clothing that will protect you per se, because sometimes that's how it's misunderstood. It is about my identity. And yeah, maybe it makes someone look at me in a slightly better way than someone who is not fully clad, right? When we were teaching kids when these kids were growing up, and we used to ask them that question, and they would say, why the hijab, or why, this level of modesty? And there's a level of modesty prescribed for men as well, which many don't even know. And it's not just ke nazar niche rakhne wali ayat. It is also about, you're also not supposed to wear tight-fitting clothes. You're also supposed to cover your aura being from your navel to your knees and so on. So swimming trunks and shorts and so on and so forth, no. They have to be of a certain style and type as well for men. For women, see, the thing is that men and women we're equal in Islam, but we're not identical. We think differently, we feel differently, we look differently. So there's physical, physiological, so many different areas that we are different. So in the same way, our dress is different. Our roles are different, our responsibilities are different. But by way of rights, by God's grace, I have never felt that if I were to be given the chance to be born again, that I would want to be born as anything other than a Muslim woman. I would never choose to be a Muslim man, let me be honest. Too many responsibilities.
Absolutely. Okay, about your family. You told me that you have a daughter.
I have 2 daughters, 2 sons, and 2 grandchildren.
MashaAllah, really nice.
That means obviously 2 sons-in-law as well.
MashaAllah. About your daughters, have they faced any incidents like these? Have they been discriminated against, or have they faced issues that Muslim women today are facing in Karnataka? Have they been bullied or harassed, or do they observe the hijab? Do they wear the hijab?
Yeah, so unfortunately, neither of them do. Both of them haven't yet chosen to wear it. They're still waiting for the hidayah. And inshallah, maybe in the near future, they will. Again, I feel that a lot of it has to do with how we are raised, how confident we are in who we are, and that we shouldn't be judged based on what we're wearing or what we're not wearing. So I hope that I've raised them in that way that they will be able to face anything that does come their way. God forbid, if they are ever discriminated against for being Muslim or for being Muslim women in hijab or without a hijab, that they don't face any flack for that. I can just pray for that. Yeah.
Ma'am, you told me you are a clinical psychologist, right?
I'm a counseling psychologist.
Okay, yes. Yeah, sorry, you're a counseling psychologist. Do you have cases that come to you where people tell you about incidents of harassment based on religion? For example, again, the hijab case. Do you have incidents like these, and how does it affect a person's mental health? For example, Muskan over there, and other girls who have also been bullied by members of different organizations. How does it affect their mental health? And I would like to know a little bit about this.
So to answer the first part of that question, I haven't ever had a client come to me and say that they have been harassed. I do have a variety of clients. I have both genders, both male and female. I do have, my focus was definitely on young adults. So teenagers, young adults, fewer or a lesser number of older people. I've never had anyone come in and tell me, and yeah, there were a few that used to wear the hijab, even some that wore the burqa, and they never did share that. So it's not something I've personally had to deal with. It would be a good question to ask school counselors, if there's college counselors or even private counselors that have clients who've come in for that reason. It would be important to ask them, what is their experience? What has been the experience of these young women who have had to come in for counseling because they are mentally, psychologically affected and disturbed. As for other issues that would come up, so mental health, yeah, it is something that we need to start becoming more aware of, and we need to be very open to understanding that mental health issues affect everyone, irrespective of race, religion, gender, anything. You are as susceptible as someone else who's sitting next to you. For her or for him, it would be for something else. For you, it could be something else that is causing distress in your life. Some people have anxiety related to school and academics. Some have anxiety because they don't like being out in public. Some have anxiety surrounding family dynamics, struggles. They don't like to see their mothers being abused by their fathers. That causes, panic attacks and so on and so forth. So I don't think that we have to sort of like muddle it up. Mental health issues are very real. Most of them, thank God, are very treatable with the right intervention. Counseling, sometimes psychiatric help, psychiatric intervention, medication, things like that. So if there are instances where someone is feeling abused and bullied, I feel it's very important that as a counselor, I should reach out, or others who are practicing in the field should reach out, make it known that you are willing to talk, maybe creating support groups where other women can share, this is what my experience has been, or other boys. I'm sure there are a lot of Muslim boys who wear their Muslim identity, be it because of their beard, be it because of what they wear, be it because of maybe going to the masjid for their prayers, whatever it may be. They may be harassed. So talking to them, helping them to understand what can be done to strengthen them, to give them the courage that's needed to help them learn how to deal with the anxiety or even depression. I'm sure that it causes low moods. It can even cause clinical depression when someone feels that they are being mistreated or prejudiced against just because of their religion, just like they would be if they were being prejudiced against because of their gender. So I think it is important to open up that and remove the stigma. That if you are suffering, if you've been abused, and I feel very humbled, and I feel very grateful that I have been able to help some girls who have been open in sharing that so and so, had abused me or is abusing me, and how to get them into a safe environment. Either remove them from that environment and make sure that the abuser is also dealt with as the law allows, or else making sure that that person is removed from the environment, and again making sure that that person is dealt with by legal means that are there for us to hold on to. Yeah.
One question now, what is the way forward for these girls, these Muslim girls? What according to you should they do, since you're a social activist? What steps should they take now? What measures should they take now so that this problem of theirs is solved? You told us communication would be the key. Apart from that, do you think protests, for example, there's a Band in Karnataka right now. A lot of districts are observing a Band. A lot of shops have been shut down. What do you think? What do you think the girls should do at this point of time to overcome this issue?
So I think it's very important that as a community, and by community I don't just mean the Muslim community. As a community, let's say in Hyderabad, I would literally go out and ask, or through this message, ask my non-Muslim friends, whatever religion or of no religion you are, support those girls, support those women in whatever way it can be done, where the issue is highlighted, that voices are heard, that a safe space is created where they feel that they can be who they want to be, dress how they want to dress, choose, whatever it is, whether it's clothing, whether it's education, whether it's employment, public transport, whatever it is. How can you help them? How can you support them? Do protests work? I've been a part of protests, especially in recent times. There have been political protests that I did put my weight and energy behind because I felt that it was important. So whatever works within the definite framework of the law, whatever my country allows by way of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom to demand the rights that my constitution, gives me. So do what you can. Write, engage with the media. I have a lot of very close friends who are doing that, trying to get their voice heard, trying to make sure that their perspective is also heard or seen. And you never know. It's a long journey. It's a tough one. It's not easy. So things can be done. So protests, written word, wherever you get the opportunity. I feel that you should speak up and support each other in whatever way you can. And the other thing that's also very important, which I think that especially I'm talking to the Muslim community at this point, is that we're not a proactive community. We're a very reactive community. So instead of that, we need to become more proactive. Engage with the community, and not only when it affects you as a Muslim. As an Indian Muslim, you're affected because you're a Muslim woman who is wearing the hijab, or your daughter is wearing it and she's being asked to remove it. That's not the only time to engage. Also engage when there is something happening to the unnatis in the country, when something is happening to the nirbhayas in the country, when something is happening to the young boys who are being harassed for whatever it is. And irrespective of what religion they come from, what part of the country they come from, it's very important that we start to engage and we speak up for what is right and wrong when it affects everyone, not just when it affects a Muslim. I think that is one of the big mistakes that we've been making for many years. So I feel it's very important that I get out there, and in whatever form of protest, a peaceful protest is taking place, whether it is if you look at the Sikh community, right, I have so much of respect for them because they are at the forefront. Whether it was in Delhi when there were protests, they were there at Shaheen Bagh. And if you look at now what's happening in Ukraine, one of the first videos I saw was of the Sikh community again, the NGOs joining hands and getting people evacuated from Ukraine or providing food or whatever. So I feel that is where we're missing. We need to be there for everyone. So that, and like I said, be proactive, not reactive. Reactions are a dime a dozen. They die off, with the next wave. So instead of that, if you're constantly making your presence felt and heard in the community in a positive way, then God willing, things will start to shift. Yeah.
One question, you say that we need to interact with other people, we need to communicate, right? A lot of people have been saying this: if you address these issues, it'll be like you're dragging them.
Attracting them, okay,
no,
yeah.
If you address these issues, you are dragging them.
Dragging them, they'll die a natural death.
That's what people say. What do you have to say on this?
That's a tough question. I do know that sometimes, things will die a natural death. But that's easy for me to say, like I said, if I'm living in a bubble, right? I'm staying at Banjara Hills in my apartment, very safe, very secure. No one is asking me to take off my hijab. I'm not being bullied by 6 guys when I'm alone, walking into a bank or into a place of worship or anywhere for that matter. तो मेरे लिए बहुत आसान है बोलना कि नहीं छोड़ दो ना, कुछ भी मत बोलो. And I think that is not the right way to be, that level of passivity, right? I think that when some injustice is taking place, you do have to at least, ज़बान से तो बोलो. रोक नहीं सक रहे हाथ से, तो एटलीस्ट ज़बान से तो बोलो कि नहीं, ये चीज़ नहीं होना चाहिए था. And I also feel that by shoving things under the rug, it doesn't make the problem disappear. It just shifts it from your visible space. And also it simmers. Something that you bury under the surface, it's not buried and gone, right? It's there under the surface. So the next thing that pokes it, it comes out again. And then you're starting from scratch. So instead of that, like I said, start the dialogue, communicate. If there's an educational institution that, be a little proactive, talk to them and say, okay, what can we do to make sure that girls feel safe? What can we do to make sure that boys feel safe? I remember that there were parents in my son's school that wanted to make sure that when they were traveling on the school bus, that there was someone on the school bus till the last child got down. Because in our experience and in our research, when we have done the work for child abuse, we realized that auto drivers, watchmen, bus drivers, car drivers, these are the people that have easy access to children. And unfortunately, they are the abusers many a time. Not all of them. I mean, there's very good people out there as well. But what I'm saying is that access, it becomes easy access. And if there isn't an ayah on the bus, then what happens is the last child that is getting off the bus may feel very unsafe or vulnerable. So, do these things. Just be a little more engaged, whatever environment you're in, whether it's at your workplace, make sure that there isn't sexual harassment taking place in the workplace. It could be the hospital, it could be the office, wherever you work. As a teacher, teachers face it. Sometimes they've been sexually harassed as well, and the admin would have to intervene. So it's very important that we don't just shove things under the rug and pretend they're not happening, but address them in the right way. Don't just go out there and without the information, without the facts, trying to prove your point. See, the minute I make it about me, I've lost. I have to make it about what the issue is and keep the focus on that. If I turn it towards me and take it, I can't make it personal. The minute I make it personal, then it becomes ugly. And the point is lost. That hopefully the reason that I'm raising a voice, that becomes lost if I make it about me. So we have to engage.
True, definitely. That's about it, ma'am. I think that brings us to the end of the interview. Thank you so much for sparing some time for us. It was good to have a conversation with you and address the issue. Thank you so much for joining us. This is me, Faiza Kirmani, signing up.